Welcome back to Hollywood Bulletin, your front row seat to the real stories behind the glamour today. We revisit a tale that once captivated America and still haunts Hollywood: the rise, fall, and unsolved murder of Bob Crane. You may remember him as the smiling, fast-talking Colonel Hogan from the hit 1960s sitcom Hogan's Heroes, a charming, clever POW leader who made even a World War II setting somehow feel like primetime comedy gold. But off-screen, Crane's story unraveled into one of the most disturbing mysteries in entertainment history. Bob Crane was the American dream personified. With a face made for the screen, a voice made for radio, and comedic timing sharper than a scalpel, he seemed unstoppable. Before his TV stardom, Crane ruled Los Angeles radio, blending celebrity interviews with live drumming and lightning-fast humor. Walt Disney himself once dubbed him the fastest wit in the West. Then came Hogan's Heroes, a risky premise that Crane turned into a ratings juggernaut. He was nominated for Emmys, featured on lunchboxes, and adored by millions. But while the spotlight glowed brighter, a darker life was forming just beyond the camera's lens. Behind that all-American grin was a man living two lives. On one hand, he was the star who made people laugh. On the other, a man obsessed with filming his most intimate encounters, often without consent. It started innocently enough with a fascination for photography, but it quickly escalated into something more compulsive, more disturbing. With the help of John Henry Carpenter, a videotech salesman turned confidant, Crane transformed his private life into a secret collection of tapes, gadgets, and late-night escapades hidden from public view. Carpenter wasn't just a technician. He was an enabler, a co-conspirator, and eventually the prime suspect in Crane's shocking murder. On June 29, 1978, Bob Crane was found bludgeoned to death in his Scottsdale apartment. There was no sign of forced entry, no valuables stolen. But what investigators did find painted a chilling portrait of a man consumed by addiction and perhaps betrayed by his closest friend. Video equipment littered the room. Dozens of tapes were discovered, recordings that revealed not just Crane's private life, but possibly his killer. All eyes turned to Carpenter. He had the access, the motive, and had been with Crane the night before the murder. But with no murder weapon, no definitive DNA match, and a contaminated crime scene, Carpenter was never convicted. He stood trial nearly 2 decades later and walked free for years. Bob Crane's story faded into the background, reduced to a tabloid punchline. The sitcom star with a sex addiction who was found dead in bed. His talent, his wit, even his impact on television comedy forgotten. But his son, Robert Crane Jr., refused to let the world forget the man behind the scandal. In 2015, Robert released a memoir that didn't shy away from the darkness, but aimed to tell the full story. Not just of the murder, but of a complex man lost between fame and self-destruction. A man who was really trying to pull himself out before it was too late. And that's the real tragedy. Bob Crane wasn't just murdered. He was abandoned by a system that enabled his worst instincts, by an industry that turned away when things got uncomfortable, and by a public that only remembered the scandal, not the laughter he gave so freely. It was a cautionary tale long before true crime podcasts made that profitable. Fame had given him everything, then slowly stripped it away. So, as we pull back the velvet curtain on this Hollywood horror, we challenge you to look deeper. Bob Crane's story is more than a mystery. It's a mirror, a reflection of what happens when we idolize the image and ignore the man. When we reduce complexity to clickbait. When justice slips through our fingers, and all that's left is a legacy of unanswered questions. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Share it. Talk about it. Read Robert Crane Jr.'s memoir. Revisit Hogan's Heroes not just for nostalgia, but as a reminder of the man behind the role. Because sometimes, the most haunting mysteries are not about who did it, but who he failed to save before it was too late. Subscribe to Hollywood Bulletin for more deep dives into the lives, Behind the legends and the truths fame tries to bury.